theory, all I had to do was get rid of the solvent. So I quickly put together the same distillation setup, and I cranked up the heating. I then waited for it all to distill over, and as it slowly increased, I was actually feeling really hopeful. This was not only because it was looking way cleaner than the first attempt, it was also because I had seen how much a tard complex I had made. It was actually a huge amount, and in my mind, there was no way that I wouldn't get a bunch of benzaldehyde out of it. The only problem was that by the time it was done, and all the solvent was gone, I barely had anything left. Even if I assumed that this was nearly pure benzaldehyde, the amount was still almost pathetic, and it wouldn't be enough to make my cherry soda. The only good thing was that it actually smelled like benzaldehyde this time, and it only slightly burned my nose and my eyes. I just didn't understand what had gone wrong though, and I hated how familiar this feeling was. This time I was also even more confused because I had isolated such a huge amount of the tard complex, which had clearly smelled like benzaldehyde. For a second, I considered that maybe I was just bad at chemistry, which was very possible, but I felt that it was much more likely that the carbon tetrachloride had just somehow not extracted it properly. It was very possible that the solvent I'd been saving for almost a decade had failed me, and I was going to have to go on a salvage mission. So I threw the whole reaction mixture back into a separatory funnel, and I did everything again, except with diethylene. I then shook it around like every other time, and waited for the layers to separate, except this time they didn't, because a bunch of solid chromium salt had precipitated. Many procedures suggested that adding acid could fix this though, so I added some dilute hydrochloric acid, and it seemed to work pretty well. The ether layer was actually able to separate, and I did this extraction a few more times. I then combined everything and washed it with water and sodium bicarbonate, dried it, and started distilling. I was really hoping that the ether would save me, and that a bunch of benzaldehyde would just magically appear, but it was somehow even worse than I could have ever imagined. I didn't just not get very much of it, I literally got nothing. So it apparently wasn't an issue with the solvent that I'd used, and after seeing this, I started getting very worried that the other theory might be true. What was even worse though, was that I officially had absolutely no idea how to fix this,